Hey everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live, and it's Friday afternoon, and then once again we're here with Chandra with Aran and Franklin. Chandra, thanks for joining us today. We had a TWIA meeting. One of the big, I know, things on the agenda was rates for
Agent
insurance.
commissions.
Yeah,
The agent
commissions.
commissions. Yes.
Agent commissions. How did that turn out?
So it was a really interesting conversation. We actually had a lot of, well, first of all, they had done a study, a 1+ year study on, what it took for the agents to be able to process a TWIA policy on both new business and renewal. So we were looking at residential policies to see, what does that population look like? Because our commercial book is very small, like 4%. So it's really
Mhm.
mostly residential. And the commercial policies always are going to take longer to process than the residential. And plus, they don't auto renew anymore. That's part of the new legislative implementation that we're having to make. So there was a lot of agents, local agents, not local agents, that came to Corpus Christi to really express their views and their support for maintaining agent commissions the way they are. The study came out. It showed that our commission structure is pretty much in line with the industry, which we don't directly correlate with industry
Mhm.
because we're kind of a different insurer. We have other perils that we have to look for. If we have, policies on the coast, you can't just have wind insurance. You have to also have flood and homeowners.
Right.
So we have to make sure all those policies are in place in order to qualify for the TWIA insurance. So, there was a lot of discussion by the agents about what it really takes to process policy, and then of course the care and information that they provide their policyholders before, during, and after a storm. So it's really those relationships, how important they are. And I actually drew a parallel and said, look, when we buy something from a big company like Amazon, you have where it's manufactured, then you have it in the warehouse, and then you have it going that last mile the uh, to the homes. And that
Mhm.
last mile is the most expensive part of the whole process, getting
Right.
that. And that's exactly what our agents are doing. They're our last mile. They're that direct contact with the consumer that we can't provide. We're way in the background. So we really need these agents to be our advocates, to be our feet on the ground, our eyes and ears, and to help us when we have issues, because we have an online claims policy, but not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to go online and process the policy. Maybe they don't even have internet after a storm, or who knows. So to be able to go somewhere and have somebody help them, and they may not even know what they need to apply for. I mean, they may not even know how to answer the questions that they're asking about the claims, and to be able to get the full amount of um, the insurance that they're entitled to. So it's really, we really need these agents, and I'm really glad that the board, it was not a unanimous vote. There were some dissenting opinions about that, but it was a majority, and we did vote to leave the rates as they were, which is a 16% commission. And so we were not going to make any recommendations to the commissioner to make any changes at this time. So I was really personally happy about that. I feel like, there's a lot of agents that do a lot of work, and
Mhm.
especially for
Especially
these coastal policyholders, it's really important. So,
especially they've got a relationship. Most insurance agents have a relationship, especially down here on the coast,
mhm,
with the end user. And so if you call into a hotline, those people aren't going to know what you've been through, as to
absolutely.
where your agent, most likely, he's going through the same thing
They're in
you
the
are.
trenches there with you, David. I
Yeah.
mean, they're going through the same pain points that you're experiencing, with no food, no water, no electricity, no flushing toilets,
Yeah.
destroyed property, leaking roof, whatever it is, they're experiencing those things with you. They have empathy for you, and plus then they have the knowledge that can get you what you need to do to rebuild your life. So, I think I'm really excited that, we were able to, you know, continue to, give the agents what they're earning in those commissions. I mean, we all know interest rates have gone up. We know that,
Right.
it's more expensive to do business. I couldn't see taking anything away from them to do the same work that they're already doing. So,
I don't know any prices that have gone down in the last 4 years.
exactly.
4
Well,
years. So why
and
should
one
a
of
commission go down?
Yeah, and one of the other points I had made was I said, you have to understand if you say, okay, we're going to do 1% or something like that, that's not 1% for the agent. That's 6.25% of the money that we're paying them because 60% of the commission, policy commission is going to them. But
Hmm.
if you take off, say, 1% and say, okay, reduce to 15, that's actually 6.25% reduction of the money we're paying them. So
Right.
it's not, I mean, it's pretty significant. If I said, hey, David, I'm going to take 6.25% of your income away from you, you'd be like, what? I mean, things are going up and you're taking 6.25%. That doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. So anyway,
What
I was really glad to have that behind us. So,
real quick, what else did went on in the meeting? Is there anything we need to look at for down the road?
I mean, a couple of things. One of the biggest things is that we had tried years back to bring other insurance companies in to do depopulation, try to get TWIA, the pool of policies that we manage down and put that into private markets. And, that started off, gangbusters, but then over the years, people have just keep falling off. And so that's what happens. We absorb all those policies
More,
back.
yeah.
And so our risk is actually going up significantly. And we have a pretty significant trajectory in our budget for increasing our policy count as well as our premium count, our premium numbers. So, that's just more liability that we're taking on to cover the coast. And, where that reflects is going to be in the reinsurance amount that we have to purchase next year to be able to cover all these policies. And it's, you know, what happens then? I mean, we have additional premium monies, which is good. That'll help cover some of it, but that's when we start getting into the rate discussion, which will be in August. And at some point, there's going to be a breaking point where we just aren't going to have enough just with premiums the way they are right now without a rate increase. You can't live in this kind of inflationary times without it indefinitely. I mean, the
Right.
private market in the same period that the private market has increased like 33%, we've increased like 5. So, I mean, we're not keeping up with the private
Right.
market, but we are the insurer of last resort, so we do try to advocate and keep premiums down as much as possible. I don't know that that's sustainable indefinitely, but I can tell you we had our budget discussion and I was that was in October, and I was really critical about, what the expenses look like. Is there anything that can be reduced? I mean, my first thing is like, let's keep our house in order first. Let's make sure that our expenses are as low as we possibly can make them and still service the customers.
Hmm.
And if we absolutely don't have any other options, great, then we raise premiums. So, I mean, and I've never been in support of that because, I'm a coastal representative and but the reality is, I mean, everything's experiencing increase.
Right.
At some point, it's probably going to have to go up.
Is there a cap as far as for whatever your liability is out? Is there a cap on what you have to have in reserves or insurance that the state or someone sets and says, okay, if y'all have, and I'm using round numbers, 100 million in liabilities out, you have to have this much in reserve.
So there's a couple of things like every year the board, I wish it was somebody else setting this number, but every year the board has to set what they call the the um, probable maximum loss. So we have a number that we have to set for insurability, and that's the number that we have to maintain in the catastrophe reserve
Hmm.
fund, which is our first layer funding, and then we have assessments and bonds and other things in there, and then we get to the reinsurance, and that reinsurance number is going to vary based on these other tiers
Right.
that we have below it. And so when we set that number, when we set whatever that number is, and I think last year it was like 4.1 billion or something like that. So, you know, and we look at all the modeling for the different storms and what the different modeling are saying as far as, the probabilities, and then we determine, okay, based on these probabilities, what kind of coverage do we feel like we need? But, you know, if we have a storm that hits, say, in Matagorda, it's not going to be nearly as impactful as one that hits Galveston or
Right.
Jefferson County or even Corpus Christi. So where those storms hit makes a huge difference in what our losses are going to be, but
Right.
we still have to cover everybody. So
Until you get a storm like Harvey that goes in at Rockport and then dumps 30 inches of rain down I-10, up
that's
59
right.
and down I-10.
It's unbelievable. And that was that's a really hard storm too. I mean, all these storms are, they're all unique, and even though they're similar, they're different. But Harvey, it dumped so much rain, and then you get into that, well,
Wind.
what's wind and what's water and what,
Right.
even if you have flood issues, you have to build back to the wind code, and it's just like
Yeah.
this. Yeah, the
It's crazy.
seesaw.
Well, if people have questions, how can they get hold of Aran and Franklin from a storm standpoint and talking about their home?
Yeah, we're happy to look at their, what they kind of coverage they have, or what kind of certificates they have on their house, what they may need, what gaps they may have. And we can do this if it's just you wanting to know for your own knowledge, or if you're trying to sell your house, work with your realtor. But if you can just go to aranfranklin.com, and you can do info@aranfranklin.com, or just go to our website and request.
Click the button.
Yeah, click the button.
Click the button. So, Chandra, thanks for joining us this afternoon or this morning. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye-bye.